Co-adapters Susan Momoko Hingley and Alexandra Rutter has brought to Park Theatre in London a stage adaptation of The Garden of Words, and I got a chance to check this out today as I'm recording this on Saturday 12th of August, and I'm here to tell you today why you should really check out this production. Hello everyone, what's going on? Welcome to the channel, whether you're new or returning. I really appreciate you taking the time out to check out my review of the theatre production of The Garden of Words. Directed by Alexandra Rutter and starring HIROKI, BERRECLOTH, Aki Nakagawa, James Bradwell, Susan Momoko Hingley, SHOKO Ito, INIKI, MARIANO and Makoto. The Garden of Words tells the story of when a teenager decides to skip morning lessons. He finds himself sitting in a lovely garden. However, he notices a woman likes to also sit in this lovely garden, and they both share the same feeling of alienation. So just to give a little bit of background context going into this theatre show, my favourite director is probably Makoto Shinkai. My favourite anime movie of all time is Your Name. So in terms of The Garden of Words, this only just recently came out, but I have just received the steelbook of The Garden of Words. And going into this production, when I heard that this was announced, which I didn't hear it originally, but I heard kind of through the grapevine, I had to book tickets, and I was lucky and fortunate enough to attend the 3 p.m. showing on Saturday the 12th of August with my nephew James. And this is a great production, and we're going to get into it, but just before we do, I just want to give a quick plug for my Patreon. I would like to say a huge thank you to all my awesome Patreons who help to really support the channel. If you're interested in joining Patreon, and if you're interested in buying some merch or checking out my debut book, there is a link down below in the description box you can click where you can find all that good stuff. Over on Patreon, membership start from only £2 per month. You get access to so much extra content, such as early videos, movie reviews, watch parties, and so much more. So there is so many people I want to shout out in this production. This comes down to the costume designer, the set designer, the sound designer, sound production, any of kind of the backstage crew that had involvement in this production, and also that full kind of cast list that I read out before, which we will also touch on as I talk about this. Now, what I'm going to say in terms of going into The Garden of Words, if you've seen the anime, it certainly has a lot of the anime adaptation movie, which is around 46 minutes long in this production. But I have heard through the grapevine, it does also kind of follow more along the lines of the book. Now, I haven't read the book for transparency, so I just kind of took this production for what it was, and I was certainly intrigued to see how they were going to adapt an anime into a theatre production. So my nephew, who came with me today, he had never seen the movie, so he was blind as to what this was about. He just knows it was Makoto Shinkai, and like me, he's a fan of that director's work. So what I can ultimately say about this production, firstly, it is fantastic. I really loved this production. I had a great time. I had a smile on my face. I felt emotional, and the ending really connected with me to the point where I was kind of nearly leaving the theatre in tears. I was getting a little bit choked up with emotion because just the acting on display, especially as this is a kind of close, kind of knit, kind of more personal theatre production in the Park Theatre, in this kind of smaller stage, it made it kind of feel more personal. I know in kind of like rehearsal videos I watched of this and kind of like a little bit more of the behind the scenes, they kind of went for the vibe as this kind of intentionally, and to kind of make you feel as if you kind of like are in Japan. And I would definitely say with the stage design, you definitely got that kind of more like intimate kind of feeling, and the whole structure of The Garden of Words, even if you've just seen like the poster art, they definitely captured that pretty well here. I think Alexandra Rutter direction is great. I think they really just worked with what they had. They kind of tried to execute what they could in this kind of smaller setting, but I also think they do it with ease. I really enjoyed the performances. Now, I have got to give a couple of standouts. I will say everyone is fantastic. I really loved everyone's performance here. It was real, it was raw, it was very honourable to the original anime / manga, but it also felt just very humanised, of course, with human characters, but it just felt more kind of relatable, especially as you are seeing these people in person act this out and helping you buy into story, whether you have seen this anime or read the manga or whether you have not, and I really respect that. So a couple of shout outs I need to give right away is to HIROKI, BERRECLOTH, who plays Takao, along with Yukari, who is played by Aki Nakagawa. Of course, they play the main two characters that you see in like the poster art as well and in the anime, and those two have great chemistry. They knock it out of the park. It's believable. You buy into their story, and the supporting cast as well are fantastic. The sound design also was really just relaxing, but then also it was really kind of like in your face when it needed to be, but in a good way. It didn't overstay its welcome. There was no sounds here that felt like out of place or felt like it shouldn't have belonged in this production, because it felt as if it all should have belonged in this said production. And also I really feel as if that the just ambience, and I felt like I was sitting in the garden itself. That's how I felt throughout watching this, and that takes a lot in a theatre production to do that, especially on a smaller scale like this was in the park theatre. I do also want to recommend and plug this very quickly. This is not an ad, I'm not sponsored or anything like that, guys. This is just me giving you a raw review. So I bought a program with the Garden of Words. This was £4.50, but inside it is very beautiful. Just to give you a look at the first page, this is the anime cover art that you guys saw before on the steelbook. It also tells you more information about this, more behind the scenes, more kind of like written descriptions from the director and the cast, for example. It goes over all the cast members and like their previous works that they've done, and this is currently shown at the Park Theatre from August 10th up until September 9th, and I've got my souvenir paper tickets as well, which I'm over the moon by. I'm going to be honest, guys, I have one negative, and this isn't really a negative, but more just kind of a little bit of kind of like just something that I noticed I would have maybe have liked to have done a tad little bit different. And this purely may just be me. The only kind of nitpick I have, if I have to be critical and have to pick something, is I appreciate this was a smaller setting. I appreciate with the smaller stage they did everything that they could, and I think they did it pretty much to a T and did it fantastic, as I've mentioned before. But I do have to say, to an extent, I wish this was done on a slightly bigger stage. And the only reason I say this is because when there's some different settings, like for example like Takao's home or Yukari's home, and you know, like the school, and say in the park, of course, and this garden with this garden setting, they do the best to make it look and change as if it's in that different setting, and the backdrop certainly helps with that. But there is a couple of times where, of course, with the limited resources, it does look the exact same, so it does kind of make it a little bit more difficult to kind of tell a couple of the scenes apart. But again, as I mentioned, that's just a minor gripe. So if I'm going to give The Garden of Words a score, the theatre production at the Park Theatre, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 stars. Are you going to check out this production? Is it not for you? Are you a fan of Makoto Shinkai? Let me know down below in the comment section so we can continue the discussion down there. If you've enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up. Press the red subscribe button by clicking the red subscribe button down below. And until the next time I see you guys, I'll be seeing you later.